Hello, so today I'd like to talk about selling your game and sort of what your avenues are and how that affects you know keeping your indie studio afloat. So certainly, one way to sell your game is Kickstarter, and basically that worked out really well for us. It doesn't work out really well for everyone, and sometimes a game can have an unsuccessful Kickstarter and be successful, or have a successful Kickstarter and maybe not be that successful. Uh, so it's definitely sort of a different audience and a different way to create a game. And I think with Kickstarter, you need to create something that people can really rally behind, something that people can get excited about. You're trying to create like a cause or a movement more so than the actual product, at least well, I mean, I guess it depends. But I think, a lot of a lot of them have really compelling products, but you really want something to rally behind, something people can get excited about. So, I mean, that's, you can create an exciting game that's new and has all sorts of features, but, I mean, that may not do as well on Kickstarter as, like, the next Tex Murphy game or something. Which, I mean, had a successful Kickstarter, and, the game is another Tex Murphy game, and maybe it's a little dated, but I hope the backers enjoyed it. I'm not sure, how big the community for that game is beyond the Tex Murphy fans who backed it, but, I mean, certainly I'm glad that they're able to make, a variety of games, including sort of retro adventures and everything. There's also pre-sales, just through your website, and we do those with like the Slacker backer packages, and I think that works pretty well for us, and we're also on the regular Ouya store with like our own sort of early access that's $35 to match the backer tier, and I mean, we make some money off that, so that works. And then, of course, there's Steam Early Access, which is a whole can of worms. I think people have certain expectations for Steam Early Access, and I think a lot of it is replayability and also, huge sweeping changes. So, like, for example, The Forest was released on Early Access, and I don't think save worked, and I mean, it sounded like it was, pretty rough around the edges. Whereas, Neverending Nightmare is functionally working. It's just not, complete. There's more content we want to get in the game, which I'm sure is true of The Forest. But I think the difference is The Forest is procedural to some extent, so there's a lot of replayability, and so you can enjoy it now, and it won't necessarily take away from your enjoyment later when they fix it and make it better. And I mean, certainly, I hope that with Neverending Nightmares we've been providing a good balance between sort of keeping all the content fresh, going back and adding things. So I mean, I think the people who are doing the alphas have been able to get enjoyment out of all the builds, but I think there's sort of a different mindset than the general early access audience, and I think to some extent, like, our title would not line up very well with Steam Early Access. And also, I like to keep our community small and just get the feedback from people who are really dedicated to making the game great, rather than why can't you kill these monsters, I want to chop them in the head with the axe, and it's like, well, that's not the game we're making, and then I have to explain that, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, there's your actual release on Steam, which I think is really important, and I'm not really sure how all the things are done, but it seems like the amount of splash you make at launch on Steam is somewhat indicative of the sales potential of the lifetime of your game. So, I mean, Retrograde we did really poorly out of the gate, and then we haven't been able to get any feature sales, which are our big revenue drivers, because to some extent, a sale without a promotion is not super helpful. I mean, certainly you'll do better, but like, for example, we did a PS3 promotion for 99 cents with Sony, and Sony had some ad space, and they, got some eyeballs on our product, and I think that went pretty decently for us. But I think right now in the Steam Summer Sale, Retrograde is 99 cents, and I mean, it's not doing gangbusters or anything. I mean, it's doing better than it was selling at, which was basically nothing. So it's selling more than nothing, but I mean, if you compare that to things in the daily deals and the feature sales and things like that, we're making peanuts. And I think it's tough. All these games coming out on Steam, and to really, Valve can only feature so many. I mean, it's a tough problem, and certainly people have been critical of Greenlight and the problems there. And I mean, I don't really know any solution to any of these problems, or if they're even a problem, or if you just need to do better at your Steam launch than we were able to do with Retrograde if you want to have a successful title. But I mean, certainly I'm hopeful for Neverending Nightmares, but, to some extent I'm a little worried because we've already sold, 3,700 copies of the game, or something like that. I don't know. But, I mean, we've already sold copies of the game, and so, those are less, sales that we would have at the launch of our Steam launch. But then on the flip side, these are people playing the game, dedicated to the game, interested in the game, and I think in general, like, each one of those backers is worth, more than one sale, because I think, they'll spread the word to their friends. I mean, we have a really great community of backers that's really excited about the game. And then, of course, there's also Humble sales and bundles, and I mean, Humble's the real sort of main driver of bundle sales, and there's a number of different Humble sales these days. I have trouble keeping track of them all. There's the regular Humble bundle, which is the best one. I think that's the one that gets the main traffic and on the splash page. There's Humble Android Bundle, which doesn't seem to... I mean, if you go to Wikipedia, you can see some of the sales numbers. I don't think the Android Bundle does as well as the regular Humble Bundle. There's the Humble Weekly Sale, which Retrograde was a part of, and the Weekly Sale is interesting because they don't have the requirements of Windows, Mac, Linux, which was a big problem for us with Retrograde. We were Windows only because we made certain tech choices that maybe weren't the best in hindsight. But, I mean, certainly, we had no way of knowing, I guess, that, Humble would become this big thing, and I don't think anyone knew. I think it was just like, hey, this would be a fun idea, and then it just happened to do way better than everyone expected. So that was kind of interesting. I mean, just sort of this new Humble business model rising out of chance. But, I mean, I think you definitely need to do Mac and Linux if you want, if you plan on making a good chunk of change from the Humble sales, and it's tough to get in a Humble sale just because everyone wants to be in a Humble sale, because, hey, it's free money. So yeah, and then of course there's the Humble Store, which gives you a nice cut, and it's pretty easy to get up on there, and they run their own promotions and sales, and of course there's other distribution channels. I don't know, someone said Green Man Gaming was the second most popular, I don't know, and then a lot of people like GOG, Good Old Games, which is not focusing on old games, but now they're focusing on sort of curating their marketplace, which is sort of what Steam used to do. And so I don't know, it seems like they're trying to become the good old Steam, and they have the client now and DRM free. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. But I mean, I could see good old games, you know, gaining market share. Because I think it's smart to make a client with auto updates and you know, try and get feature parity with Steam, because Steam does a ton of things you know, that are great. It's easy to download games, it's easy to update them, it's easy to move to a different computer. I mean, I play games on different computers, and, you know, I'm streaming, and now the Steam controller, and the VR and stuff. So, I mean, I think it's going to be tough for anyone to compete with Steam just because they're offering so many features. But, I mean, like, you know, some of those features may not be as important. You know, we're not doing leaderboards in Neverending Nightmares. I mean, on Retrograde, if you buy it on Humble, you just don't get the leaderboards because we didn't want to roll our own, and I don't think you can use the Steam leader. I don't know, maybe. But anyway, so that's sort of the take on your options for selling your game, and certainly it's going to be a challenge, because I think, you know, Steam is a big one, and of course you have to make a big launch there. And obviously I've neglected to mention Ouya, but if you're selling on Ouya, basically the Ouya market is really your one avenue there. And I don't know if anyone has quite, you know, cracked the code to marketing an Ouya game. I mean, certainly be interesting to see if the games without the free to try element will be successful there, because it seemed like the community was really happy about that, really liked that aspect of Ouya, and I don't know. So it's, I guess the real conclusion is it's scary being an indie game developer, and there's no surefire way of success. There's so many different ways of selling your game, and it's tough on, you know, all of them, I think. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed for Neverending Nightmares, so anyway, thank you for watching. Bye.